A man who needs constant applause is not free. He is a slave to perception. Nietzsche warned that a culture that suppresses strength will breed weak men. Modern society often celebrates victimhood over power, comfort over challenge, equality of outcome over excellence. In such a world, the strong are subtly shamed while the mediocre are protected. This environment does not produce warriors, but compliant sheep. Yet, within this crisis lies an opportunity. Cowardice is not permanent. It is a condition that can be overcome. Nietzsche believed in the possibility of the Übermensch, the higher man who rises above fear, conformity, and weakness. Such a man does not seek approval, does not avoid pain, does not submit to mediocrity. He creates, he struggles, he stands alone if necessary. To become courageous, a modern man must first confront himself. He must admit his fears instead of pretending they do not exist. He must choose discipline over comfort, truth over convenience, and purpose over pleasure. He must learn to be alone without feeling lonely, to speak without trembling, to act without hesitation. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act despite it. The modern man must stop running from life and start facing it head on. He must embrace challenges, welcome struggle, and use adversity as fuel. Only then can he reclaim his strength. Nietzsche did not condemn modern men out of hatred. He warned them out of concern. He saw their potential, but also their decline. He knew that greatness is possible, but only for those willing to fight for it. Most men, however, choose safety over greatness, and that is the essence of their cowardice. A truly strong man does not need to dominate others. He dominates himself. He does not need constant reassurance. He trusts his own judgment. He does not need to blend in. He dares to be different. He does not complain about the world. He shapes his place within it. Modern men must remember that life is not meant to be easy, but meaningful. Comfort may feel good, but it weakens the spirit. Struggle may hurt, but it builds greatness. The choice is always there, to remain a coward in a soft world, or to become a warrior of one's own destiny. Nietzsche's message remains clear and unforgiving. A man who avoids risk, hides from truth, and submits to conformity has already lost before the battle even begins. But a man who embraces his inner power, faces his fears, and carves his own path becomes something greater than ordinary. He becomes truly alive. And in the end, the question is not why most modern men are cowards, but whether you will remain one of them or rise above the weakness of your time and become the man you were always meant to be. The deeper one looks at the modern world, the clearer it becomes that cowardice has been woven into the very fabric of daily life. Men move, speak, think, and even dream within invisible boundaries that they rarely dare to cross. These boundaries are not enforced by chains or prisons, but by expectations, norms, and an overwhelming fear of being judged. Nietzsche understood that the most dangerous cages are not made of iron, but of ideas. Modern men are taught to seek safety in numbers. They align themselves with groups, movements, and popular opinions because standing alone feels terrifying. They chant slogans they barely understand, defend beliefs they have never truly examined, and attack those who think differently simply to avoid isolation. In doing so, they surrender their individuality. And for Nietzsche, the loss of individuality is the beginning of spiritual death. Look at how many men are desperate to be liked. Their personality shifts depending on the room they enter. With friends, they pretend to be carefree. At work, they pretend to be obedient. Online, they pretend to be confident or morally superior. Nowhere are they fully themselves. This constant performance is not strength. It is a symptom of deep insecurity. A courageous man does not mold himself to please others. He remains himself regardless of approval or rejection. Fear has also weakened modern ambition. Many men dream quietly but act timidly. They imagine success but hesitate when real effort is required. They romanticize greatness but shrink from the sacrifices it demands. They watch motivational videos, consume powerful quotes, and feel inspired for a moment. Yet, when the screen goes dark, they return to their old habits. Nietzsche would say they are addicted to the illusion of growth rather than the reality of it. Even in their anger, modern men are often cowards. Instead of confronting problems directly, they vent behind screens, hiding behind anonymity. They argue aggressively online, but remain passive in real life. Their rage is loud, but their courage is hollow. Real strength is not expressed through digital outrage, but through disciplined action, difficult conversations, and consistent self-mastery. The modern man has also lost his relationship with solitude. True courage requires the ability to be alone with one's thoughts. Yet many men cannot sit in silence for even a few minutes. They fill every gap with noise, music, videos, messages, endless scrolling, because silence forces them to confront their fears, failures, and emptiness. Nietzsche saw solitude as a testing ground of the soul, but modern men treat it like a punishment. Cowardice shows itself in how men treat truth. Instead of seeking what is real, they cling to what is comfortable. They prefer comforting lies over painful realities. They surround themselves with echo chambers that reinforce their beliefs rather than challenge them. A courageous man welcomes truth even when it wounds his pride. And a coward avoids it at all costs. The workplace has become another arena of quiet cowardice. Many men suppress their opinions, endure unfair treatment, and swallow their dissatisfaction because they fear losing security. They trade their dignity for stability, their voice for a paycheck, their spirit for comfort. Nietzsche would argue that a man who sells his integrity for safety has already lost his soul. In romantic relationships, cowardice manifests as emotional avoidance. Men often hide their true feelings, fear rejection, or manipulate rather than communicate honestly. They want connection but fear vulnerability. They desire love but avoid the risk of being hurt. This creates shallow relationships, misunderstandings, and loneliness disguised as independence. Society subtly trains men to be soft rather than strong. Discipline is replaced with convenience. Competition is framed as toxic. Struggle is seen as unnecessary. Excellence is treated with suspicion. In such an environment, courage is mistaken for aggression, and mediocrity is praised as balance. Nietzsche warned that when a culture weakens its men, it weakens itself. Yet, despite all this, the potential for greatness still burns within every man. Cowardice is learned, not innate. It can be unlearned. The first step is awareness, recognizing where fear governs your choices instead of your will. Many men never reach this stage because self-reflection requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. To rise above cowardice, a man must cultivate inner strength daily. This means choosing difficult over easy, truth over comfort, and growth over pleasure. It means setting boundaries, speaking clearly, and standing by one's principles even when it is uncomfortable. It means accepting responsibility rather than hiding behind excuses. Nietzsche believed that suffering, when embraced rather than avoided, refines the spirit. The modern man must stop seeing hardship as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher. Every failure, rejection, and struggle can either break him or build him. The coward collapses, the courageous man evolves. A truly powerful man does not depend on validation. He does not need constant reassurance from others. His confidence comes from discipline, competence, and self-respect. He knows who he is, what he stands for, and what he is willing to fight for. Such a man is rare in the modern world, but profoundly impactful. Courage also requires clarity of purpose. Many men drift through life without direction, reacting rather than choosing. They follow paths laid out by others, parents, society, trends, instead of forging their own. Freud would say that a man without a strong personal will is already enslaved. The modern world may be comfortable, but comfort breeds weakness. Soft environments create soft men. Easy lives produce fragile spirits. If a man wants to be truly strong, he must willingly step into challenge, discomfort, and risk. Greatness is never born in safety. Nietzsche's critique of modern men is not merely an insult, it is a challenge. He is daring men to wake up, to reject cowardice, to break free from conformity, and to reclaim their inner power. He is asking whether they will remain passive products of their time or become active creators of their destiny. In the end, cowardice is a choice repeated daily, the choice to avoid, to hide, to conform, to stay small. Courage is also a choice, the choice to act, to speak, to stand, to grow. Every man makes this choice consciously or unconsciously in every moment of his life. The question remains open, sharp, and unavoidable. Will modern men continue to bow before their fears, or will they rise, transform, and become something greater? Nietzsche leaves no room for comfort in this answer, only the demand for strength, truth, and relentless self-overcoming. I prefer this response ChatGPT response to. Here is more continuation, same tone and flow, no headings, no numbering, written as a continuous speech. The tragedy of the modern man is that he mistakes silence for peace and submission for wisdom. He convinces himself that avoiding conflict makes him enlightened, when in reality it slowly erases his identity. Nietzsche understood that conflict is not a flaw of life, but its engine. Without resistance, strength has no reason to exist. Without challenge, courage has no soil in which to grow. Modern men fear being judged more than being weak. They censor their own thoughts before anyone else can. They soften their opinions, dilute their beliefs, and hide their ambitions so they do not offend or stand out. In doing so, they become invisible even to themselves. A man who never risks being disliked will never be respected, not even by his own soul. There is also a deep fear of hierarchy in modern society. Men are taught that striving to be superior is immoral, that excellence is arrogance, that ambition is greed. Nietzsche saw this as a sickness of the herd mentality. When no one is allowed to rise, everyone is forced to crawl. Cowardice thrives where greatness is discouraged. Most modern men no longer ask themselves what they are becoming. They ask only what they can get, how they can be entertained, how they can be comfortable. Their lives are spent reacting instead of creating. They wait for permission to act, approval to speak, validation to exist. Nietzsche would say that a man who waits for permission is already enslaved. The fear of solitude is another mark of cowardice. Many men cannot sit alone with their own thoughts. Silence terrifies them because it forces them to confront who they really are. So they fill every moment with noise, people, opinions, and distraction. But a man who cannot endure his own company will never become strong. Greatness is born in solitude, not in crowds. Even morality has become a refuge for the weak. Instead of using morality as a tool for self-mastery, modern men use it as a weapon to condemn strength in others. They call strong men toxic, dangerous, or outdated. Nietzsche recognized this as resentment disguised as virtue, the weak attacking what they cannot become. Modern men also fear failure more than emptiness. They would rather live small lives than risk failing at something meaningful. They choose predictability over passion, safety over purpose. But Nietzsche believed that a failed attempt at greatness is worth more than a lifetime of obedient mediocrity. A man who never fails has never truly lived. There is also the fear of becoming responsible for one's own values. It is easier to borrow beliefs than to forge them. It is easier to follow rules than to create meaning. Most modern men outsource their thinking to ideologies, trends, and popular opinions. Now, this intellectual laziness is a quiet form of cowardice. Nietzsche warned that when men stop striving upward, they begin to decay inward. The body may survive, but the spirit rots. Comfort becomes addiction. Pleasure becomes escape. Entertainment becomes anesthesia. And slowly, the fire that once defined man as a creator, a conqueror, a philosopher, fades into ash. Yet Nietzsche never believed that all men were doomed. He believed that most would remain weak, but a few would awaken. These few would feel uncomfortable in a soft world. They would feel restless, dissatisfied, and misunderstood. This discomfort is not a curse. It is a signal. It means the spirit is still alive. To reject cowardice, a man must learn to love difficulty. He must seek challenges that scare him, truths that unsettle him, responsibilities that weigh heavily on him. He must stop asking what feels good and start asking what makes him stronger. This path is lonely, but it is honest. The strong man does not need to announce his strength. It shows in how he stands, how he speaks, how he acts when no one is watching. He does not complain about the world's cruelty. He uses it as a training ground. No fairness, no comfort, no guarantees. The moment a man accepts this, he becomes dangerous in the best sense of the word. He stops begging life for meaning and starts imposing meaning upon it. Nietzsche's philosophy is not comfortable, and that is exactly why it matters. It demands that men stop hiding behind excuses and confront their own weakness. It demands self-overcoming again and again without end. Not perfection, but relentless growth. In a world that rewards conformity, the bravest act is to become oneself. In a world that worships comfort, the strongest choice is discipline. In a world that fears truth, the highest courage is honesty, especially with oneself. Most modern men will never choose this path. They will call it extreme, unrealistic, or cruel. But deep down, they will feel its truth. And that silent discomfort they feel is the echo of the man they could have been. The question remains unchanged. Will you numb yourself with comfort and blend into the crowd, or will you accept the burden of becoming strong? Will you live as a shadow, or will you dare to become a force? Nietzsche leaves no room for excuses. Become stronger or be forgotten. Rise or decay. The world will not wait, and history has no sympathy for cowards.